Welcome. We're very happy to have you here at Harmony Hall. My name is Orlean Grant. I'm President CEO of the Juanita C. Grant Foundation. We are a nonprofit based in Maryland, specifically in Prince George's County, and we are happy to be back in person after being a hiatus from in person events for almost 2.5 years. So, very happy to be here. We are restarting our elder abuse and fraud financial prevention training series, which we've been doing across the county for 4 years. We were lucky enough when we first started it that we had then State's Attorney Angela Alsobrooks to kick us off as far as our first venture, and we are equally honored today to have State's Attorney Aisha Brayford. I want to give a few acknowledgments before we get started. In the audience, we do have some board members, Mike Bear in the back, Donna Satterwade, like Lanita Colbert, and we have just hired a new program assistant. We're very happy about Sebastian Salinas. So we are expanding as far as services. And also I'd like to acknowledge Lisa Richards Edwards for allowing us to come into her home today at Harmony Hall and having to host us. We are partners with Parks and Recreation in doing this, as well as Family Justice Center and the Department of Justice Elder Abuse Initiative. So we are very happy to be here. I'd like to go ahead and start with opening remarks from State's Attorney, and then we will go into formal panel introductions, and also go into a little bit about why we're here and what we're going to learn today about elder abuse, concrete steps for avoiding becoming a victim of elder abuse and fraud, and also information you can take with you in your resource packets that we hope that you will share with family and friends so that we can spread the word on how not to become a victim, or if you do recognize elder abuse and fraud, who to contact, what are the agencies, and what do they do, and who can help you immediately with whatever the situation is. Our end goal is for Prince George's County to be a safer community by everybody knowing concrete steps to avoid it and red flags to avoid elder abuse and fraud. It's my pleasure to introduce State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy. She has been in elected offices for quite some time. So it was really good to know her background, and also looking at State's Attorney's record as far as elder abuse and fraud. In Prince George's County, if you count the population of 50 plus, there are some 300,000 older adults in Prince George's County. Most of the time we just hear about 65 and up, but really if you start with middle age at 50, there are a lot more people with us in in the older adult category. And if you think about that, elder abuse and fraud has increased 90% since COVID. It's exponential in its growth, and we need everybody together in a coordinated fashion to tackle this, not only in the front end, but also on the prosecution and the resolution side, which is where family justice comes in as far as coordination of services. So would you please help me welcome State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy.
Thank you so much, Miss Grant. And it's a pleasure. Let's give it up for Miss Grant and the Juanita C. Grant Foundation. Also, it is great to be here in one of our amazing park and planning facilities. So, thank you so much for being a partner, as well as the Family Justice Center. I think we partner on so many different things, and it's so amazing the work that they do because it is really about that justice for them. And it's all about connecting people to resources and also navigating through those resources because sometimes it can be intimidating, especially if you are a victim. In particular, if you have any uh, disability or if you have problems speaking the language or their cultural barriers, having the warm and approachable and amazing people at the Family Justice Center, and patient patience is so important with the work that they do. But and I look forward to hearing from all of the wonderful participants, including my partner, Andrea Sheehan, who you'll hear from, as well as the chief of our special prosecutions unit in my office, Franklin Shelton. You know, the seniors really are the backbone of our community. My parents um, brought me here from Washington, D.C. at a very young age, and they wanted me to grow up in a community that they believe would, you know, instill values, and where I could kind of grow up in a safe environment. But in addition to that, they took into consideration at that time my grandmother, who was still living, and she lived with us. And they wanted her to have a place where she could enjoy her twilight years as well. And so Prince George's County for them represented um, safety, security, and beauty. And that's what we want for all of our residents. My parents now are considered active seniors. And so I look at my service to our senior community as service to my parents. And I treat the issues that come to my office, especially those involving our seniors, as if those seniors were my parents or my grandparents. And that I take it very personally when someone is trying to abuse a senior, whether it's physically or financially. And we hold individuals accountable every single day for this type of work, doing our type of work. And I just wanted to bring up a couple of cases that I think really highlight the work that we do. There was a gentleman by the name of William Whalen who actually was a resident of Montgomery County, and he pretended to be a lawyer and indicated to a senior that he would help her out and because she wanted to get a loan modification. Well, he was not a lawyer, and he instructed her, instead of paying her mortgage, she was to pay him for his services. He provided absolutely no services to her, and during that period of time when he was supposed to be helping her out, she lost her home. Her home was foreclosed upon. And so when we found out about this, we took this case very seriously. And sometimes when you hear about economic crimes cases, individuals who are held accountable, they may get probation or slap on the wrist, as some might say. But we thought that his actions were so egregious that we decided that we were going to go in, as I like to say, on this case. And so we prosecuted this case, and I'm sure that Franklin will tell you a little bit more about it. But Mr. Whalen was sentenced to 11 years with all but 8 suspended. So he has to do 8 years. And that was he was sentenced in June of 2021. In addition to that, we had another very successful and important prosecution of a wonderful woman by the name of Geraldine Jackson. She really actually could have been my grandma. We got along very, very well, and she was so sweet. And she was not mobile, though. She was confined to a wheelchair. But she was active. Her mind was good, and she's getting around as best she can, but she needed a little help. So she had a caregiver who would come to her home to take care of her. And guess what? Her caregiver not only took care of her, but her caregiver helped herself to Miss Geraldine Jackson's money, her checkbook, and other financial resources. And so she was paying off her own personal expenses without the permission of Miss Jackson. The good thing that Miss Jackson had was an advocate, a niece who would check in on her. And she was able to tell her niece that she thought something was going on. Her niece looked into it and determined that there was some fraud going on. And so they brought it to our attention. We worked with our police department, and also we prosecuted her, and she also received jail time. Now, the issue is that even though we're able to get what we consider justice, it's what we can do in the courts of law, we can't always fully, give that person, that individual back what they lost. We can't give back Miss Duckett's home. We wish we could, but her home was sold at a foreclosure sale, and so she has to start over, and she's starting over as a senior. Now, the good thing for her is that she has a loving family, but she doesn't want to live with her family. She was living independently, and that's what she wanted to do. But unfortunately, now she has to rely on her children. And Miss Jackson is in a good financial situation, but you know what? Every last cent that she earned should have been hers, and she should have been able to determine how it would be spent. And so, cases like this, we are grateful that we're able to achieve justice, but what we really want is to prevent these types of crimes from occurring. Because even though they're not considered violent crimes, they are of the most devastating types of crimes, because again, when you have worked all your life and you are living off your savings, or if you've invested in your home and that's taken away from you, you can't recuperate, especially when you're in your 70s or 80s. So it's really important, the work that you all are doing, providing training and really being advocates to our seniors so that they don't get into some of the situations that that some of our seniors have found themselves in. The thing that I really appreciate most about organizations like this is that you all are credible messengers. We can go out 1,000 times. They'll listen to us. They'll believe us. But I think when they hear from people who are, in similar situations to them, they feel like you get it, and I look forward to working more closely with you because we have gone out to a number of senior homes and apartment buildings throughout the county, advising our seniors of all the scams that are happening and helping to, arm them with information so they can take that back to their friends and neighbors. But I think it would be wonderful to have members of this nonprofit as part of that outreach effort. We really do need your support in getting that message out in a way I think that seniors will understand. So we really appreciate all of you, and we look forward to, again, working more closely with you. And I thank you so much for inviting me to speak today.
Thank you, State's Attorney. Those are some wise words as far as spreading the word, getting this out to the community to make it more effective. And trusted messengers are always the ones that really count in any, and we found that out during the pandemic. You have to have a trusted messenger to really connect with the community. So we'd like to start with our panel. And this is an illustrious panel, some who are new and some who have been back. I want to introduce Franklin Shelton from the State's Attorney's Office, Chief of the Special Prosecutions Unit. Mr. Shelton has been with us before, and we are so happy to have him back at this point, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting us to share with you some strategies to avoid being the victim of theft and other scams. And I want to start my remarks by just emphasizing the need, or with the mantra: if you see something, say something. Contact the police. Speak about it. Don't just accept it. Verify. As I was coming in this morning, I heard a brief commercial, and there was a company, an online company, touting some of their products, and they were operating from a zero trust model. So in other words, like when their computers interfaced, with another network, it was going to assume, nothing. You were going to have to go through certain authentication steps before they would allow you to, access or engage with that other media. And that's especially true because over the past few years, more people are taking advantage of online platforms to conduct business. Most banks, stores, credit unions have a significant online presence that it allows customers to handle financial transactions from the comfort of their home using a phone, tablet, or computer. The same holds true for branches of government and local agencies. Customers can pay bills online, update their account information, and check their payment history. And so as people have grown accustomed to sharing their personal identifying information, such as their social security numbers, bank account information, and birth dates with others using these platforms, fraudsters have taken notice. Okay. Fraudsters have taken notice of this trend. And fraudsters exploit the anonymity offered by these online platforms. They too can run scams from the comfort of their home or some destination far away. And so it's very important to be mindful of that. As one of my colleagues in our unit says, you may get a random call, and I'm going to give you a few brief examples in a moment. But if you get a call, don't give information, get information. I mean, I understand that they're going to try to make, entice you to remain on the call and so forth. And that's fine. Don't give any information, get information, name, the reason they're calling, contact numbers, and don't be, compelled to make a decision like in the high pressure tactics. Those are red flags. And again, so these fraudsters will try to exploit the information they may gain through a phone call or, oversharing, on the internet, and they will themselves apply for loans that they don't intend to pay. They will open up bank accounts that they don't intend to, utilize, but for the purpose of a quick scam. So it's very important to keep those things in mind. And another tidbit, I was reading a New York Times article this weekend, and it concerned a fraud statute or an act that was designed to protect customers who through no fault of their own were scammed out of money. And it focused on Zelle. I'm not sure how many people use Zelle, the Zelle platform, to conduct business. But in this, particular article, what they highlighted was this man was robbed at gunpoint. His phone was taken, and over the course of days, he saw that thousands of dollars had been taken from his bank account using the Zelle platform and transferred to Cash App and these other accounts. And that highlighted for me a couple of things. Yes, if you're robbed, give up your phone, but you can do things to protect yourself. One of those things is taking advantage of two-party authentication. So for Cash App, Zelle, most banks nowadays have a two-step process. You can enable like Face ID, or a text to another number to confirm that, this is really me, going through this transaction. So that signaled to me when I heard that man, unfortunately, go through that problem, that he likely did not have two-step authentication set up for his Zelle account or his banking account or whatever the case may be. And another point of the article was that they were getting hassled. The banks weren't stepping up and making those people whole as they should be under that federal law, because it essentially states that where the consumer, the customer, the account holder has been, scammed, it wasn't a transaction they initiated, then the bank should be on the hook and make them whole. But there was some pushback until like the New York Times came and seeking comment. Then, those things were kind of cleared up and they made those individuals whole. But you can avoid some of that hassle by taking advantage of things like two-party or two-step authentication. Another scam that's popular, and Sergeant Sheehan and the police department may talk more about it, but we sometimes get calls, regarding overpayments. That's another thing that's, we're seeing a lot of. And the way that essentially works is You may get a call, and the caller may have some limited information. So for the purposes of this quick example, they may verify that someone was receiving a $50 like rebate or something like that. They just wanted to confirm that. And then later they may get another call within a day or two, indicating that there was a check for like $1,000 sent. And so the way, and there are variances on this theme, but the way it works is that check will appear to be posting like in this example, $1,000. And then the person will call in panic mode. I'll lose my job. You're only supposed to get the $50 rebate check, but you see that you were paid, you're given a check for $1,000. So the recipient of that call may feel compelled to try to, do what they can to prevent this person from losing their job. And they will go out, withdraw some money, and wire like $950 to this person. In the meantime, about 3 days later, that check will be denied. So it's pending, but it's not an authentic check, but it gives the appearance because they see that money out there. It hasn't, cleared the account. And so we get calls, unfortunately, sometimes where people, and I'm giving you a modest amount of money, but large sums of money have been lost like this. And it's difficult to track people down because these, it may touch an account overseas, like here in the States, and then it may be split up into multiple accounts in destinations overseas. So there, like I said, variations of this overpayment theme. The use of gift cards, if they insist on being paid in gift card for some type of labor or something performed, be very wary of that. Like that's, because those can be, those numbers can be negotiated very easily. A lot of times they will pressure people to give them the information on the card. They don't need the physical card. They just need the information on the back of the card, and they may try to pressure people to provide them with that information. Another scheme that or weak point that I've kind of seen more of concerns the mail collection boxes. You may see those large blue collection boxes. They have been redesigned to make the opening a lot narrower to prevent it being susceptible to phishing scams where people take something like a bottle with a sticky adhesive and just will fish out the mail and search for checks. Another problem is use of arrow keys. Like a lot of these collection boxes, they use like a uniform key. So one key may work for a large region, and people will go and open up those collection boxes. They will take the checks, take all the mail out, and they're searching for checks. And the reason they're searching for checks is that they want to alter the payee, they want to alter the payment amount, and they also are hoping that the account holder is not going to be mindful of this. They're not going to check their bank records on a regular basis to identify like, okay, I don't know this person, this is not a valid check. They're hoping people won't check and ask questions. So the suggestion there is to maybe go directly into a post office to, make your, like payments for, regular bills or what have you until that problem is addressed, concerning the collection boxes. There are a number of seasonal scams that we see, depending on the year, like, if they're hurricane season, you'll have people coming by promising to do an excellent job fixing your roof. They just happen to be in the neighborhood. We finished your neighbor's roof and we can give you a cut rate deal to do, work on your roof. Check to make sure with the Better Business Bureau, take their information, ask if they're bonded, or are they insured, ask for references, but don't feel, that you have to do anything immediately. Also, get a contract so you can understand your rights. But if you ask them for their bail information, if they're registered with the Better Business Bureau, a lot of times it'll be a very quick conversation. They may say, I'll get back to you, and you'll never hear from him or her again. But you want to be very careful with those. Sometimes when we get cases where someone has done a poor job on a roof, we have to evaluate whether this is criminal or civil. And if, is it where a situation where someone was, just robbed of money? Was the money stolen? Was there any work performed? If work was performed, then we have to consider, well, is this civil? Is this a situation where the person, the consumer is simply not happy with the type of work performed? And they could come to court, if we, went to trial in that scenario. Look, this is a civil matter. That's what the defense attorney would say. This shouldn't be in criminal court. They're just unhappy with the work performed. There are other remedies, but this is not criminal in nature. So, be mindful of when you're dealing with contractors, ask for contracts, the Better Business Bureau information, ask if they're licensed, insured, and so forth. So if something goes wrong on the project, you have a means to claw back some of the money. I will be around with the other panel members later, if there are any other questions, but those are the main takeaways. I mean, operate from a theory of like a zero trust model, take advantage of two-party authentication. And if you see something, say something, and don't share your information. Just guard it very carefully. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. I did want to have opportunity for Lisa Edwards to say something from Parks and Recreation. I forgot to give you your opening. If you want to come forward, Lisa, and just say hello.
Thank you, but because I'm a caregiver and I have so many people that I help at my church, I'm already in mode to I've been taking notes, but welcome to Harmony Hall. I am the acting facility director here. I've been with Park and Planning, actually May was 4 years. And so we have a very active and thriving senior program here. We normally do things on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I've actually been a part of helping to support other activities from this organization at the South Tech Rec, which is where I was on Bach Road prior to coming here. So I'll say welcome. Thank you for coming. Please let myself or any of the staff know if you need anything, and I'll put my hat back on and finish enjoying the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. One of the things that Mr. Shelton talked about was the summer scams, and I remember someone knocking on my door saying that they were fumigating the house next door and all the bugs were going to come my way. And they had a jar with these awful looking bugs. And I don't like bugs, but awful looking jars, bugs in this jar. And I said, I just punted. I said, you have to talk to my husband. That did it. And he went away. But it's very true when you have seasonal issues to be aware of them, look out for them, and they're so slick. And they do want to put fear in you and make you want to do something right away under pressure. So thank you, Franklin, for that. I wanted to introduce Sergeant Andrea Sheehan. She's a supervisor for the Prince George's County Police Department's Financial Crimes, Pawn, and Cyber Crimes Unit. She has been in the department for 18 years and has a myriad of certifications. And one I'm really interested in is the cryptocurrency, which you are hearing about a lot. Business email compromises, the dark web, many things that we have not been able to cover before in some of our programs. So I'm just very happy to have Sergeant Sheehan available for us today, and please welcome her.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for having me. Not only am I super passionate about going out to the community and expressing all of the scams that we are seeing, that specifically in Prince George's County, but also I have my supervisor, Lieutenant Bellino, who also has a passion for this, as well as my fellow investigators who are not here with me today. And although we have numerous investigations or different types of investigations, one of the things that we keep on seeing repeatedly is exactly what's going to be in your care packet when it comes to phone scams. And I think we've all received at least one phone call in reference to trying to get money out of us. Yes? How many people here have heard about the grandparent scam? Anybody get one of those calls? Yeah? Yeah? Believe it or not, it's almost always the same thing. It's the same story. Hey, grandma, hey, grandpa. And it's always going to sound a little crackly, like you can't really hear. And then you go, Joey? You gave up the name, by the way, right? And you're like, Joey, is that you? Yeah, grandma, I got in an accident. I was with my friends, and there were drugs in the car. It's not mine. It was my friends, but they arrested all of us. Click. Hi, I'm the lawyer. You owe $10,000 if you want little Joey out of jail. And of course, as grandparents, and I am a grandparent of 3, okay, you want to help your grandchild. And of course, the grandchild will say, please don't say anything to mom and dad, right? We don't want to be embarrassed, so please don't say anything. And for some reason, we just keep on following along. And about 4 or 5 years ago, it used to be take those $10,000 and put it in between some magazines, wrap it up with some tinfoil, put it in the post office box, and send it off to a random address. Well, now they're doing something one step better. Don't worry about it. We have a bail bondsman representative that's going to come to your door, and they're going to pick up the money. Okay? Now, we have been successful in working with our federal partners in actually indicting one of our cases. And we are currently working on with other jurisdictions on a cell that's actually doing that right now. But as many community events that we go on, which is between 1 and 2 a week, it seems to keep on happening. So I'm not going to pretend like I made up this little logo, but instead of pay it forward, let's say it forward. We're here right now where we can go with our family members and say, look what I learned today. But just that as it was expressed with our state's attorney, I can say it all day long and I can spiel out the words, but it's a lot better when you actually hear it from those who are affected. And what's really good is that we do have some of our very brave citizens who have been affected in the past will come and actually go to these community events. Or if they want to remain anonymous, we'll actually do it on Zoom and they'll be able to call in and say, this is exactly what happened to me. Because then you can start hearing the emotions that they actually went through. Okay? One specific one, how many out there have actually had the, hi, this is the Prince George's County Sheriff's Department, you have a warrant out for your arrest. Right? The one thing, and I'll say this on a side note, the one thing is that anybody who says, well, geez, who can fall for that? They got to be stupid. I hate that word. I hate that word because these guys are confident, right? They're really confident in what they do, and they will get you. And they will, this is exactly, and I love to give the insight of exactly what's going to happen in these phone calls. So you have the Sheriff's Department. You'll get a text message or a phone call, and it say, call this 1-800 number. And then when you call it, it's, welcome to the Prince George's County Sheriff's Department. If you received this call for you have a warrant out for your arrest, please push this prompt. And then you push that prompt and all of a sudden a real person will come over. And this will be Sheriff so-and-so. Yes, you went to, you were supposed to go to jury duty and you didn't show up, so you have a warrant out for your arrest. Now, for every citizen who's never even dealt with the police or even had a warrant or you're like, oh my gosh, that's our instant reaction, right? Well, as Chief Shelton stated, all of a sudden now we're going at a higher rate of emotion, right? We're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Okay, all you have to do is just go to Lowe's and Target and Home Depot and let's keep it going, right? And we're gonna have you go to all these locations to pick up gift cards. But here's the thing, they're gonna have you hold your phone. Don't get off the phone. You're not allowed to get off the phone. And so you hold the phone and you go into these stores and you get the gift cards. Now give me the codes in the back. And so what's happening, and like I said, I like to give you the insight of it, what's happening on the back end, is these types of scams are being orchestrated overseas. The individuals that are receiving money or have to go buy merchandise with those gift card codes that you provided are called mules, okay? And a lot of times those mules happen to be our seasoned citizens, right? And when you have someone saying, okay, keep on getting money, keep on getting money, keep on getting money, all of a sudden you're out of money, guess what happens? Well, I can't give you any more money. What do I do now? Okay, well, we go ahead and pay you. But all you have to do is open up a bank account. And then we're going to funnel some money in there. And then you just make sure it's wired off to this account. And all of a sudden you became a mule for somebody overseas. That's how it kind of works. But let's stick with the grandparent scam real quick. Okay, that can be in locations such as Canada or some other foreign country where you have these individuals at these call centers. Remember back in the day when you used to have the telemarketers that call you at dinner time, right? And say, hey, you want to buy the encyclopedia? Do we even have that anymore? Right? So these guys actually have a piece of paper with all of your information. They have your first name, they have your last name, they have your address. They might have your grandchild's name, right? But they also have your net worth. So they're not going to ask too much money from what you can and can't afford. Okay? And like I said, there have been some successful prosecutions or arrests within the grandparent scam, but it will not stop. So this is where we have to say it forward. And when we learn about these things, and like I said, you can copy these. I have electronic versions of these as well. Please pass them out to as many people as you can so that we can decrease the amount of phone calls. Because I can talk about cryptocurrency, I could talk about other scams, but these 5 scams that we have on this sheet right here are literally the top 5 that we keep on seeing almost on a daily basis. And just imagine how many people are getting rich off of all of us overseas from these. So let's talk about just scams, phone scams in general. What can we do to diminish the amount of scams that we get? Number one, let's just stop answering the phone, right? If we still have a landline, we have futuristic things such as Verizon that will actually speak out loud to you saying, Johnny is on the phone, Johnny is on the phone, possible scammer on the phone. I personally called Verizon just to see if I could provide some more information on how can we lessen those calls. And they said, well, you can lessen a little bit of it if you want to go ahead and apply for this account for free, but it only helped this much. But if you want to pay $2.99 a month, we could do this much. Won't get rid of all of it. I think it's criminal, right? We need to pass a law on this one. But yes, so there are ways to lessen it. But what's really interesting, and I can provide additional training if we don't know about this, is to actually go onto our phones and go into our settings and go into our little phone logo, like on the iPhone, and actually block those calls. You will only then receive phone calls that are on your contacts. You won't have those scam calls. They'll go directly to voicemail. And almost 100% of the time, they don't leave voicemail messages. And if they do, you know not to answer them, right? And then the same with the text messages. And if you don't attend one of those classes that we can provide, you simply call your phone carrier and say, how do I do this? Because I'm not going to pretend to know too much about Androids because I'm an Apple expert, not literally, but you know, I have Apple iPhone. But you can actually call your phone carrier and ask them to block those calls, block those text messages. There's a little caveat to that. And I'll tell you a story. My dryer broke down and I had that block and I forgot to unblock it. And usually they call you on a number that doesn't belong to BG&E. And I had already waited 1 month. So when you're waiting for a repair person, take the block off because I missed that call and I had to wait 2 months for my dryer to be fixed. So that's the caveat. But that's just one downside to everything. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
You mentioned spam calls.
Mm-hmm.
Do what? I did a lot of spam calls.
Yeah, so I know specifically the iPhone, you can go under your settings. And then when you scroll through your settings, you look for the little phone icon, that little green phone icon, click on that, scroll all the way down. And then there's a couple buttons that you can toggle over that can actually block those calls. Okay? And then anything that is not on your contacts will go directly to voicemail or they usually just hang up. We're done? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So bottom line is phone scams. Let's not answer the phones. Let's not entice them to feed you into their conversation so that they're taking all of the money that we worked so hard for in our lifetime, because it is, you know, as they say, police officers, you know, you get trained in the academy, you're not supposed to have emotion, right? Well, that's not the case. I get a lot of emotion when I have to go on a phone and I hear someone crying saying, I just lost all of my money. That's sad. That's sad. So let's go ahead and just keep on telling everyone, please, just don't fall for these scams. Don't be scared. Hang up. If you have a question, if you're not sure it's your grandchild, talk to that parent or just try to call little Johnny yourself. But hang up, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Sheehan. We had a visitor slip in, and that is County Council Chair Calvin Hawkins. I did a little investigation of Councilman last night, and everything that came up was really interesting. But the one theme that came up repeatedly about you was that you're the citizen's advocate. And almost everything I read, it said you were a citizen's advocate. And I think in a county-wide role, that is exactly what it calls for. I have known Calvin Hawkins before through personal friends, and it's been a pleasure to get to know Councilman Hawkins in his role as county council chair. And we were, attempting to have some interesting presentations here today, and we were lucky enough to have the state's attorney Aisha Bradeboy come. And I think it really speaks well when you have the county-wide chair of the council able to come and speak on the very issue of elder abuse and fraud prevention, which is a county-wide issue. And we are so happy to have you here. And please come up and give welcoming remarks.
Thank you for those kind words. I'm going to be very brief because as I sat there and listened to you, I learned more than I knew upon arriving here. And this is all about what you all are talking about, and I want to sit and continue to listen because as a council member, I can take some of that information back to my colleagues and work on legislation that will support what you're doing. I also want to say to our county police representatives and even to the center you represent, our Family Life Center, Family Justice Center, the work you all are doing is just amazing. But to the Juanita Foundation, I just want to say this about you all. When I had an opportunity to hear from Lanita about the work you're doing, I said, no, we need to be a part of this. And the council will continue to support you through our grants program to ensure that you can continue to do the work you're doing for our elderly. My mother turned 80, would have been 80 yesterday, Sunday, but she passed. And now I have my mother-in-law. So the information you shared and the other panelists will share, I'm going to sit and listen, and I'm going to go back more of an expert on what to talk about. And I would like to take one of the bags, if I may, and I'll share the information with my colleagues on the council. We will make printed copies so they can share with their constituents within the 499 square miles of Prince George's County. Again, you all didn't come to hear from me. You came to hear from the group that's sitting to my right. I'm just grateful to be here, and we are just so overwhelmed by the work you all are doing, and we will continue to support you on the council. I know I got the name wrong. I said just Juanita. I just want to say Juanita Grant Foundation, and thank you for being a partner. And thank you for being leaders in our community when it comes to the elderly and the things they go through. And you all know this as police officers, one of the challenges we're facing right now in some of our communities, our seniors do not even want to get out of their car to pump gas, go to a store because of the what they're dealing with. But what you all are talking about is so pervasive, and we need to stop it. So thank you for this opportunity. And again, it's going to sit and listen. We have a legislative session going on, but I have 9 colleagues there who can deal with the business while I learn what I need to share with them and our family members. So again, thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to listening more. I just want to say to the Prince George's County Police Department that what you all are doing each and every day is just amazing, and it humbles me, and I mean that sincerely. And I go everywhere talking about our county police department because of the work you're doing to make our community safer each and every day. You go in harm's way in a way that just touched me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Hawkins. I want to introduce our newest member to our partnership, the Elder Justice Initiative. This is a federal agency, Department of Justice. We have expanded to the federal realm. We also have partnerships established with the Federal Trade Commission, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and did I miss one? That's it. Okay. We really wanted to make sure we broadened the amount of information we were bringing to the community to have not only the county law enforcement represented, the county coordination of services represented, but also to hear from the federal branch, especially in legislation, especially in what the initiatives are nationally that may impact Prince George, and also how we can learn if there's anything to bring to Prince George as resources from the federal level in order to help our county as a whole. So I'm very happy to introduce Andy Mayo, who is with us today. He was on a conference call earlier, but he was able to come and be a part of this, and we're really happy to have him. Please welcome Andy Mayo.
Good morning, everyone. Let me just start by saying I'm an unusual bird because I'm a lawyer who doesn't like to speak publicly. And I'm from New Jersey, so I speak really fast. So you're just gonna have to roll with me on that. I appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you and talk a little bit about what the federal government is doing. Again, 9 times out of 10, it's the state and local police officers and prosecutors that are dealing with the vast majority of fraud. But I want to talk a little bit what the federal government is doing in the background to sort of support their efforts. First of all, I will say that I've been with the department over 22 to 23 years as a prosecutor on fraud cases. And I will say that the elder justice field has exploded in the past 10 years in the sense that a number of federal agencies now are actively working on elder justice, elder abuse related issues. So that's the good news. One of the big things that the federal government is doing is that they established this Elder Justice Coordinating Council. It's a lot of words, right? But basically what it is this interagency body where people from the Department of Justice, HUD, Labor, HHS, all the federal agencies get together on a regular basis to talk about what issues are pressing for older adults. What can we do as a federal government to support victims of elder abuse and fraud and sort of proactively support older adults generally? The call that Orlean just mentioned was the Elder Justice Council meets twice a year. They're meeting actually right now as we speak. And the two issues that they're focusing on are nursing homes and anti-fraud messaging. With regard to nursing homes, you know that nursing homes were devastated during the pandemic. And a lot of that has to do with infection controls. But candidly, as a practical matter, a lot of the problems that we saw during the pandemic inflicted on nursing homes were long lasting. That's understaffing, right? A lot of nursing homes just don't have enough staff to take care of our loved ones. And that's been there for years. And so the pandemic just brought that out and made it much clearer to everyone around the country that we have a problem here. So representatives from HHS were talking about reforms that they're going to try to implement to require federally a minimum amount of staff in nursing homes, which hopefully will make a little bit of difference. The other issue that the panel was going to be talking about, a separate panel talking about, are anti-fraud messaging. What works? The problem is that the fraud schemes are constantly morphing, right? What can we do to educate not just older adults, but everyone about fraud schemes? What can we do to prevent them? And one of the panelists, which I thought was going to be very interesting, is this group from the UK, the United Kingdom, and England. They've developed this campaign, this anti-fraud messaging campaign. And what's unique about it is the fact that it's a true public-private partnership. The problem now is there's just so much information. You're getting it from the news, you're getting it from the radio, you're getting it from the internet. It's all sort of like, it's just noise. And at some point in time, you just sort of block it out. What they focused on was, can we develop a clean message that everyone is going to be saying at the same time? So you hear consistent message, right? A lot of the themes that they're talking about are ones that we heard about today, but they've really given thought to how do we do it at a holistic level. And so we'll be interested to hear what they have to say. Well, I'll hear from it a little bit later. Other things that the federal government are doing, I just want to flag. At the Department of Justice, again, we recognize that the vast majority of elder fraud and abuse are handled at the state and local level. That is why the department over the past 10 years has developed a lot of resources and invested in time in developing training, resources, and tools for to support the work of state and local prosecutors. We have, for example, we heard for many, many years the fact that oftentimes elder abuse and elder fraud is not something that is taught in the state academies. There are a lot of important other classes being taught, a lot of important topics, but elder fraud and abuse is something that's not specifically being focused on. So we wanted to fill in that gap a little bit. And so, for example, one of the things we developed was the Elder Abuse Guide for Law Enforcement. That is an online resource available for free to all law enforcement. It has training on there. It has checklists on how to investigate matters. It's all available. And let me say just before I forget, everything that we do, I'm a prosecutor. I like practical information that I can use immediately. Everything that we have developed, not just for law enforcement, but for the public, is available on the Elder Justice website. And that's at elderjustice.gov. Everything is all on there. All the video trainings, all the checklists, everything that we do is right there. It's one-stop shopping. So again, I want to highlight that. One of the interesting examples of something we just developed over the past year was the fact that we heard from a lot of our state and local prosecutors that there's not a lot of training out there about how to conduct a forensic interview of an older adult that will stand up in court. Older adults, they're unique issues, especially those with Alzheimer's or dementia. And a lot of times prosecutors, I think, are wary of using those with dementia or Alzheimer's as witnesses for a trial or in a case. And so we wanted to consult with experts and develop some sort of training on how do you conduct effective interviews that can actually be stand up in court. And so we worked on that, and that actually just came out. So again, that's an example of where we're trying to add value. One other thing I think is worth mentioning is the fact that, again, where the Department of Justice adds value sometimes are going after fraud schemes that cross jurisdictions, multiple states. That's ones where like a single state AG or a local usually doesn't have the resources to handle multi-jurisdictional fraud schemes. So we tend to focus on those. We also tend to focus on fraud schemes that are foreign in nature, in origin, right? The Indian call center, Jamaican lottery scheme. What can we do to combat those foreign schemes that are targeting older Americans, older adults here in the United States? So that is somewhere where we can add a little value. And so that is what we have spent a lot of our efforts trying to do. One other thing I would say is that a number of the speakers talked about the phone calls, and they're really shady, right? And oftentimes, once you have picked up the phone and answered it once, you are on a phone list. And then they sell the phone lists. Like fraudsters will sell it from one fraudster to another. So there's lists of people who have proven to have picked up the phone and will answer the phone. So that's why there's so much repeat offenses, right? Because they'll keep coming after you again and again and again. Because once you answer, you're on a list somewhere. So again, I would echo exactly what Sergeant Sheen was saying about if you can avoid it, don't answer the phone. Unfortunately, that's not a way to live, you know what I mean? Sometimes you got to answer the phone, but again, just know that once you do, and if you're talking to a fraudster, it's more likely than not that you've landed on a list somewhere. In terms of tips, I would just echo a lot of the things that have already been said. They morph all the time, but a lot of them require time pressure. They require isolating you and putting a lot of time pressure on you to make quick decisions, right? You can always hang up. You could always take a breath, right? If it's that important and they're legitimate, they will call back if you hang up, right? So you really you can't be afraid of hanging up because the time is what kills. The time is the pressure. I don't like being pressured. right? I talk to my mom about this all the time. She doesn't like being time pressure, and yet that is the tool that they use in all the different types of schemes, be it the grandparent scheme, be it the romance scheme, be it the tech support scheme. They all rely upon time pressure to make you make decisions that you otherwise wouldn't make. So again, you have the power, right? You have the ability to hang up. You have the ability to ask questions. You can actually do all these things. But at a minimum, you can always hang up. And if it's really important, they will call back. Just two other things I would mention. One is that the federal government, you've probably heard there are lots of government impersonation schemes, not at the local level, but also at the federal level, right? They'll impersonate Social Security Administration, IRS, the FBI. Talk about insult to injury. The Department of Justice created this elder fraud hotline, which I'll talk about a little bit later. This is a hotline that you're supposed to be able to call, and they will connect you to resources, especially if you're a victim of elder fraud. Well, we heard 3 months ago that there are fraudsters who are impersonating the elder fraud hotline, calling people and saying, we're the hotline, we got your name, we need your information. So again, there is no one they will not impersonate. They will impersonate the FBI, they will impersonate the Social Security Administration. But again, we have control, we have the power, right? To not fall prey, to take a breath, to hang up if necessary. There are ways we can protect ourselves. The last thing I would say, and this cuts across not just elder fraud, but also elder abuse, is that there's a direct correlation between all those things and social isolation. Abusers, be they physical abusers or financial abusers, they prey on those who are socially isolated. And so again, what I tell my mom is that you have to stay engaged. You have to be a member of the community, be it in church or be it part of a community event like this. Stay engaged, because the more people that are dealing with you on a day-to-day basis, they will notice things. You'll be able to ask someone else, does that sound right to you? But when you're isolated, it just makes you much more vulnerable to all sorts of fraud and physical abuse. That's what abusers want, right? I can't tell you how many cases we hear about daily when the older adult lives with a grandchild sometimes, and they are victimized and they are living by themselves. They don't see anyone. The grandchild or the relative have basically cut them off from all contact. And, that is the type of vulnerability we want to avoid. So again, there are real physical permutations when you're socially isolated, which is why it's important to stay engaged, which is what I tell my mom, what I tell all my older friends. It's important. It's not just, because you want to remain happy, but there are physical benefits to staying engaged. It can help you avoid some of these fraud schemes as well. In terms of resources, again, my colleagues here on the panel have mentioned a number of them already. The elderjustice.gov website, again, has all of the materials that we've developed, including a lot of the pamphlets that are in your resource bag. It also has on the website the elder fraud hotline number. I won't try to repeat that. But on that, I would just note one more thing, which is the fact that a lot of the schemes that you hear about will involve you having your bank wire money, right, to someone. Right. The FBI has a group called the Internet Crime Complaint Center. And within that, they've developed a group called the Recovery Asset Team. You don't have to know the name of it. If you go on our website, it'll tell you. But what this number does and what these people do is that if you believe you've been victimized by fraud and you call them and file a complaint within 72 hours, this group of FBI agents will reach out to the bank, your bank, and work with them to try to stop the wire from going out. As others have said before, once the money is gone, it is incredibly hard to get it back. It's candidly virtually impossible, which is why prevention is the key. If you can avoid it, that's the best case scenario. But if you have a fraud scheme where you believe you've been defrauded and you call the elder fraud hotline and file a complaint, there is a possibility at least that the FBI can contact the bank, work with them, and basically stop the money from being sent out. Stop it. Again, not perfect, but for people who don't have a lot of money, it can make the huge difference, right? It could make the difference between having money or not. So again, I'm happy to answer more questions about that. If you call the Elder Fraud Hotline, they have been trained on how to file a complaint with that FBI office. We went out of our way. We made sure that every one of those elder fraud hotline operators knew exactly how to file the complaint, what information they needed. So again, that is a resource out there that we hope you can take advantage of or tell people about. And that's all that I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Andy. Again, every time we have one of these events, we learn so much, so many new things, and having the Department of Justice here brings another dimension to us of information that we all need to know. I just wanted to go over the packet a little bit, the resource bag that you had since Andy mentioned it. Please go home, take some for your family or friends with you and share it. But we have all the information from all the panelists here, Family Justice Center, the police department, how to avoid scams. And Andy mentioned something that is very true. Social isolation among older adults, among a lot of people, is a significant issue. And we have also our flyer for the Village Connector Experience program here, which is a online structured call program that the Juanita C. Grant Foundation does provide for those older adults that may be socially isolated and would like to have a call 1 to 3 times a week to help them get reacclimated, back connected with family and friends. So I just wanted to mention that. Coming to kind of the coordination of all of these activities and really looking at what happens to the person once they've experienced a crime or once they've experienced some type of trauma. The Family Justice Center in Prince George's County is one of those models that you don't find everywhere in the country. It is state-of-the-art, progressive, forward-thinking, coordinated of so many different resources. How many? 54? 22. 22 different organizations, and we're one of them. We're very happy to be a partner with Family Justice Center in providing coordinated services to individuals who have experienced some type of trauma or crime. Dr. Denise McCain has over 25 years of experience working in domestic violence. She is an expert in that field. She's highly recognized, was appointed in 2016 the director of the Prince George's County Family Justice Center, and has recently accomplished creating a foundation for the Family Justice Center to help support the activities of this organization, which is really fabulous. And I do know in creating a foundation that is not overnight. That takes some doing and effort. She was confirmed as a 4-year term commissioner in the Prince George's County Commission for Women, and has done numerous other things. And it's just a joy to have Dr. McCain here. And she's a little under the weather, so we're going to make sure you don't speak too long. So, Dr. McCain.
Thank you so much, Orlene. And as you can hear, I apologize for my voice, and I assured my esteemed panel guest here as well that I don't have COVID. We've forgotten about the good old cold, right? COVID has kind of taken over, and every time you sneeze or cough, you have COVID. No, I don't have COVID. I just have a chest respiratory thing going on. So as I shared with Orlene last night, it was really bothering me. I took some Alka-Seltzer night stuff and it knocked me out. So I apologize for my voice, but I'm very happy to be here with you today. And thank you for all that you do. The Juanita C. Grant Foundation is an amazing organization. And quite frankly, they're one of the 22 organizations that's in the Family Justice Center. It was the piece that we were missing. The Family Justice Center was established to provide services to survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and elder abuse. But we really didn't have that hands-on resource and expert there that could really help guide us and ensure that we were meeting the needs of survivors. So we're really grateful for your support and very happy to have you as a partner with us. I also thank all of you for the work that you do, because you're the ones who are really on the ground. You see it and you're working with victims every day. So we thank you for that. I'm really here to talk more about resources and how you bring this all together. As was mentioned, the Family Justice Center is a very unique model. We are a collaborative of multi-agency, multi-organizations that are all co-located in one building, sort of like the one-stop shop resource, if you will. So if you think about it, someone who's been victimized would traditionally have to go to 3, 4, 5, 6 different places to get help. The Family Justice Center was designed to eliminate the need for someone to have to navigate a system and go to the police, now go talk to a therapist, they want to go into shelter. This is really re-traumatizing for someone that has to constantly repeat that story over and over and over again. So this facility, we are an initiative of the Circuit Court. We're very grateful to the County Council, our chair, thank you for being here, for all of your support. But we are a public-private collaborative, and we're here to serve the residents of Prince George's County. I'd also like to just add that as Prince Georgians, you should be very proud to know that you have a Family Justice Center in your county. There are only 3 in the state of Maryland: Harford County, Montgomery County, and Prince George's. However, we are by far the best. I'm a little biased, but we are, for many reasons, we are the best. And that's probably in part because we serve survivors of human trafficking and elder abuse, which the others do not. Having said that, I want to just talk again, when we talk about the population of elderly victims, a very vulnerable population. Victimization can be traumatizing for anyone, but when you think about an elderly person who has many inherent challenges, not necessarily dementia, Alzheimer, but they could be disabled. And more often than not, what we know is that many times they're victimized by those who are closest to them, whether it be a family member or a caretaker. And I want to add on a personal note, it's not necessarily individuals, as you said, Sergeant Sheehan, about the stupid person. Just on a personal note, I've been married. This is the second time, which I generally don't tell people, but it's my second marriage, and this husband is really good. The other one wasn't. He wasn't. But truthfully, though, he's retired, and as you define the population of elderly, I'm in that population age range, but he's a little older than I am, retired from the Department of Defense. I thought he was pretty smart. Well, guess what? He was being scammed. And he was being scammed via the internet. When you said this internet crime team can get your money back, I'm assuming it's too late, because I had to step in and I had to actually seize his account so that he could no longer send them money. But he was led to believe that he does have a brother who is deceased, who used to travel, and he was led to believe that his deceased brother was in Africa at one point in time and had a will in which my husband was listed as the beneficiary. But in order for him to collect the money, he had to send money to get the money out of the country because of fines, because of fees. And these people went to the extreme of getting letterhead from the Bank of Ghana and signed it with the president's name. I Googled it. It was the correct person, but it was all bogus. And some of the red flags, they were emailing him. The language, the grammar was terrible, which is I can't tell you how many times I tried to convince this man, this is a fraud. This is not legit. And he kept sending them money. He kept sending wiring money. Till finally I gave him an ultimatum. I said, I get rid of him real quick. I said, you can be number 2 gone as well. I said, you have 2 choices. This is really true, though. I did. I said, you have 2 choices. I said, you can either give me your account and have because he's federal government retired, have your pension check deposited into my account, or we can stop this now, because I'm not going to let you do this that could potentially in some way affect me. So today I get his pension check because I think it's also a control thing. Like, he was of the belief. So I say all that and I share that, not to embarrass my husband. He's a wonderful man, but it could happen to anyone. And when you're in a situation like that, you need support. Fortunately, he had me to step in and take over and make sure that that was not going to continue. But there are others who don't have that kind of support. So the Family Justice Center is there as a resource. Again, as was mentioned, people need help. They need advocates. They need someone to help them understand what can be a very confusing and daunting system. So we are there. We have intake specialists. We have therapists, trained clinical therapists, who, by the way, I think he would have benefited from some support, emotional, because I don't know what the connection was. But all in all, resources are extremely important to help people navigate, get the support they need, get the help and the assistance that will make a difference in their lives. All of our services are free of charge. I will emphasize free of charge. So we have legal, civil legal support. The state's attorney's office is a partner. The police department is there on site. The sheriff's office is there on site. The Department of Social Services is there on site, which also is connected to Adult Protective Services. And of course, one ESD grant is on site. So all of those resources are available, and we're there to serve and support. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. And thank you for the opportunity.
Watch your leg. Thank you, Dr. McCain. It's a pleasure to have you, as always, and you made it through without cracking your voice, which is really great. We're going to open up for questions and answers. Now, we're trying something new. We do have a white card. If you have any questions, if you could write them down. But since we're kind of up close, are there any questions? We'll just go ahead and take them from the audience at this point. Okay. Okay. So the question is, how are elder abuse offenders tracked?
That is a great question. I'm not sure if everyone heard it, but there is, to my knowledge, no state elder abuse registry. Like there's no like an equivalent of the like a sex offender registry. Unfortunately, no. But the convictions are a matter of public record. So on a case by case basis, if for example, the William Whalen case, or and I think of a handful of others. All those cases, once they're going to be available on the web. You can use Maryland has a great resource, the Maryland Judiciary Case Search, and you can track the disposition of cases. The docket entries during COVID aren't as detailed as they were pre-COVID, but it nonetheless will give you the status, like if there are any motions hearings, if there's been a resolution of the case, and typically the sentence that the judge handed down on a case-by-case basis. But that is a tool as well. And on a side note, I know, in speaking of abuse and things like that, we have in our office like a practice called office duty. And I remember fielding a call, this was many years ago, but there was a person who had called, and he was complaining that like he was apparently trying to date some women using these apps. And some of them had Googled him on that Case Search. It's a free database, but there are some things on there that they had questioned him about, and so he was trying to see if that could be something that that we could restrict access. I'm like, no, but they were looking out for their interest. I was kind of surprised they're industrious like that, but it is available, and yeah, so I know people are using it, but yeah.
While there is no registry now, I will point out this past session, legislative session, there was a bill that was put forth. It did not go through to develop a registry for offenders. And it looked largely at what was going on in nursing homes. So I would encourage you to pay attention to legislation because I'm sure it will come up again next year. Generally, that does happen if a bill doesn't pass one year. You'll see it reintroduced, perhaps with some changes, but there has been discussion, and for those very same reasons.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I'd like to thank our panel. We give them a round of applause. And I just wanted to point out before you leave, we have a green exit card. We really would like to know if you really did hear the information you needed today. Is there anything else we can do to bring the information to you more effectively? So if you could please fill this out before you leave, and Sebastian Salinas right there will be collecting them, and we certainly appreciate it. And thank you to each and every single one of you, and certainly appreciate your efforts and all that you do for Prince George's and the federal government. Thank you.